And we are back with the fourth segment, of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. And today, in this fourth segment, we're going to be talking all about Team USA, because recently, the star players, there are star players that have been considered locks for Team USA, assuming that there aren't any injuries that continue on through this season. So the players that are definitely going to be on Team USA are Drew Holiday, I know, a little bit weird, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Stephen Curry, Joel Embiid, and Jason Tatum. So this right here, Kevin Durant, LeBron, Steph, Joel, and Tatum, that is 100%. Oh, also, I forgot to mention, Devin Booker is probably going to participate in Team USA basketball as well. So obviously, great starting lineup. I mean, Steph Curry, Jason Tatum, Kevin Durant, LeBron, Joel Embiid. What more can you really ask for? They have the height, they have the defense, they have exactly what you need to go up against a lot of these international players. Drew Holiday coming off the bench, again, great defender. Devin Booker, great shot maker as well. Great options coming off the bench. And the stipulation around Team USA it's a little bit of a tricky one, because we, as the United States, I say we tend to be the best team 9 times out of 10 in basketball. All the time, Team USA always wins the gold in basketball, because it's the sport that that North America made. So obviously all of the players are going to be the best. However, I will say that the notion of why they're the best, it was a little bit skewed. Back in the early 80s and whatnot, with in the Olympics, it was sort of seen the athletes are better just because they're American. And it wasn't they have the experience. It was just because that they were Americans that they were better, especially around that time, because that was around the time of the Cold War with the Soviet Union, and all that history plays into a part, and how American patriotism was seen as this very big thing. So it played into a part in the Olympics, obviously, and it played into the part with the fact that America constantly wins these basketball tournaments, and whenever America loses, it's a big shock, and they don't really lose that often, because again, it's very shocking because of how advanced basketball is in North America. They play it every single time, so their athletes are obviously they're just going to be a lot better. Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson, all of those players, they grew up playing that game. And I'm not saying that international players didn't grow up doing that. They were starting to grow up doing that once the NBA started becoming a lot more famous worldwide, and a lot more international players started making it into the NBA, because it was a sort of a revolution, because it was oh, these foreign players, they're actually really good too. So maybe we should draft them, because when you think about it, it's not because the athletes were American that they were better. It was just because they had much more tools and they had much more experience than the rest of the other countries had, because basketball was taken a lot more seriously in North America than it was in other parts of the world. So when you take that in mind, and when you keep that in mind when talking about a lot of these players like Pau Gasol and Manu Ginobili, Dirk Nowitzki, Yao Ming, all of these players, they were great international players, but they only started, the international players only started coming once the globalization of the NBA started coming, because a lot of these players were, inspired by 1992's Dream Team, and they wanted to be as good as that competition. So while we were sort of taking it as, a cakewalk, we Team USA, those guys were working day in and day out trying to get the gold and try to steal the gold from Team USA. And this thing is it's been happening throughout the entire years, where the United States doesn't end up winning, and it's expected for them to win. And the Redeem Team in 2008, great example of when Team USA was struggling in basketball, they had to bring along all sorts of like recruits and all sorts of players and new coaches to make a team that was dedicated to the Olympics. And like they spent years along like with how long they spent, like the other teams spent and the other nations spent trying to hone their game for these types of tournaments. So I talked a little bit about history. So let's talk about like what's going on now with and why these players are on this team. So earlier in the FIBA basketball tournament, which we're expected to win like every single time, Team USA, a lot of the star players that are on this roster right now, they opted out. They didn't want to be part of the team. And Team USA, at least what the internet called it, they had to send their B team or like their C team. So essentially it was like players that have never been part of Team USA, and they weren't the first option, I guess you could say. Like these players that they got for the FIBA tournament, they weren't the first option of players that were considered to be on Team USA, because all of the players opted out. It left the room for a lot more players to opt in. And obviously, this was seen as a mistake because we didn't even send in our best players. We sent in the reserves, if you will. And obviously, when you put our reserves against like number one strings, regardless of what nation they're from, it's not going to look good. So this team is sort of like, it's been assembled just to like sort of redeem our very embarrassing loss in the FIBA tournament. So you might consider it like LeBron's version of the Redeem team, because like while he was part of the Redeem team, he wasn't. It was sort of like, I don't really consider him as the face of that team. I thought it was Kobe that was I know I'm wearing a LeBron jersey right now, but Kobe was without a doubt the reason why that Team USA team was the best team in the entire world. And there's not really much that needs to be said, because Kobe has never lost a game while playing for Team USA. Never. He never lost a game playing for Team USA. He understood what it took to win at such a big scale, and he already understood the passion that a lot of these international players have. And a lot of the NBA players, they don't really share that. They don't really like some of them. They don't really share that same passion, and they don't really see that passion. And they take it with like a grain of salt sometimes, because they're thinking in their mind, oh, we're NBA players, we're star players, we make so much money playing the games, we're the best of the best, we're definitely going to win. And that's not team basketball. You're not going to win by thinking like that. And that's been the problem with Team USA a lot. When they don't win, it's because they aren't taking it seriously. And while it's good for the game, because it shows just like how a lot of these other countries are like getting better at basketball and catching up, it's like, all right, that's cool, but like now we want to win again. Like give us back that gold. And it was it's a staple. It's something that happens like every single time in the Olympics, assuming that the United States end up losing a game. And when they end up losing a game, it's like the worst news ever for all of these NBA players. But yes, Kobe was the best player on Team USA. He understood what it needed, what it took to win, and that's what elevated the team to reaching those types of heights. And now with Team USA and this Team USA like loading up with super teams, I feel like they're going to be doing the same thing. However, one thing that is overlooked going into like FIBA and the Olympics, the rules are slightly different, and the officiating is also slightly different. So that also plays a factor in NBA players when they're playing in these types of tournaments, because the officiating is not what they're used to. Like, the biggest example that I could get is the fact that the refs, they barely call like those flopping calls that you'll see in the NBA. So not sure how Joel Embiid is going to favor with these refs. And there are also some calls like that don't get called. Like they would, for example, I watched the Dream Team documentary, and one of the players was saying that, like, let's say there's a player running at you, right? And he's trying to run around the screen. You, as a defender, can get in front of him and like bump into him, and it won't be a foul on you. Like, the ref won't call it a foul. Like, they'll just see it as like you're playing physical defense, which I'm not sure if I really prefer, but I would honestly I'd like teams that have that tough defense, and I like the refs that allow players to get up and put a hand in the player's face, because it's with the way that defense is played in the NBA, it's very difficult to play defense and be physical at the same time, because if you touch anybody, it's considered a foul. The rules are a little different when going into FIBA. So Team USA sort of has to overcome that before they could be that team that everybody knows that they can be. But with that, that's the end of the last segment and thus the end of the show. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. And remember to go to this link if you want to get your comments recognized. Again, it is a new link, not the same that I've been doing on other shows. It's gsmcpodcast.net. Helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself, the host, you guys, the viewers. Once again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. It's a lot shorter and it's a lot less annoying to say 24/7, so I'm grateful for that change. But again, that's the end of the show. I am your host, Nelson, and as always, take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.